breakfast. Has it been a long week? Sort of, Martin said. Until last night, it had seemed like the longest week of his life. Now it didn't matter. Now he knew the sheepdog could never join their family. What do you say, Peter? Their father asked curiously. Nothing. Peter didn't look up. He made a hole in the middle of his oatmeal and watched it fill with milk. Mr. Tracy leaned over and gave Rosie a pat. "Couple of rumps we have here this morning," he said. "You keep an eye on them today, Rosie. Don't let them get lost. Are you coming home for lunch, or do you want to take some sandwiches with you?" their mother asked. "Sandwiches," Martin said. He caught his father's eye and added, "Please." For the first time since they moved there, he was eager to get away with the popcorn hill for a while. Without even discussing it, the boys headed down the road in front of the cabin and away from the orchard. Rosie romped around them, chasing butterflies and sassing the squirrels that chattered in the trees. "She's silly," Peter said. He kicked a stone into the brush at the side of the road. "She's happy," Martin said, but Rosie's cheerful mood was getting on his nerves. In spite of the shining day, all he could think about was ghosts. Now there were two of them haunting Popcorn Hill, and one of them was the dog he and Peter had dreamed of owning. "Want to go to the creek?" Martin asked. Peter shrugged. "Okay, I guess." By the time they reached the creek, they were tired and hot. The water was only about a foot deep, but it ran swiftly over the rocky bottom, making a cool, plish splash. The boys sat on the bank and took off their sneakers. Rosie barked at the ripples. "She's never seen a creek before," Martin said. "Wonder what she thinks it's for." A moment later, Rosie showed him she knew. With a happy bark, she leaped into the middle of the stream. Back and forth, she splashed, sometimes jumping, sometimes swimming. When she spotted a big stone halfway across, she scrambled up onto it and barked at the boys. "She looks funny," Peter said, almost smiling. Rosie's coat was plastered to her thin body, and her feathery tail whipped the air like a wet brook. "She wants us out there with her," Martin said. "Come on." They splashed toward the rock, with Rosie getting more excited every second. When Martin was just a couple of feet away, she launched herself into the air, hitting him squarely on the chest. Down he went, knocking over Peter on the way. They crouched in the water and watched Rosie climb back on the rock. It's a game," Martin laughed. "She's made up a game. She wants to defend that rock. She doesn't want us near it. You stay here, and I'll go around to the other side," Peter said, splashing noisily through the water. "She won't know what to do." But Rosie was ready for him. For the next 20 minutes, she defended herself against every attack, hurtling at them like a black and white cannonball when they got too close. Again and again, the boys toppled backward, partly because it pleased Rosie so much and partly because the water felt good. When they were too tired to play the game anymore, they waded to the shore and opened the lunch bag their mother had packed. Rosie barked at them to come back, but soon she gave up too and joined them. Peter broke off a corner of his peanut butter sandwich and dropped it in front of her. "Good girl," he said softly. After lunch, they followed the creek bed for a while, watching for fish and throwing stones in the water. Then they turned back toward home. "I've got an idea," Martin said slowly. "I've been thinking about, well, you know," he hated to say the words and possibly spoil the day. "What?" Peter looked at him suspiciously. "About having two ghosts." "Don't talk about it," Peter ordered. "We have to," Martin said. "They're there, aren't they? Tom Buckles hanging around because he's lonesome, and the sheepdog came last night because he wants friends too. What I was thinking is, why don't we try sheepdog together?" He was going to find a way. It was the only answer he could think of to their problem. It was lonely out on the rock without Peter. Fog rested like cotton candy over the tops of the trees in the valley. Martin sat down and wrapped his arms around his knees. "If I see the dog, I'll just wave at him and run back to the cabin," he decided uneasily. He didn't like ghosts any more than Peter did. Minutes dragged by while he sat and thought about the ghosts and Tom Buckle. Below him, the orchard and the little meadow in front of it disappeared from sight. The fog began creeping up Popcorn Hill. Martin shivered. Bit by bit, the path up the hill vanished. The dog could be right here before I know it, he thought. He listened hard and imagined. He heard the soft flip-flop of big paws. "He's here!" Martin jumped down off the rock and raced headlong toward the lights of the cabin. He had hoped to make sure the sheepdog was still around, but he didn't want to meet him out here all alone. Miss Tracy was reading and Peter was drawing a picture, when Martin burst through the doorway. Peter followed him into the bedroom. "Did you see him?" Martin peered out into the mist-filled yard. There was no sign of the dog. "I didn't see him," he admitted, "but I'm pretty sure he was close by. And I've thought of a plan. If he does come again, we'll be ready." "I don't want to hear it," Peter said. Martin made a face. He was scared himself, and his brother wasn't helping. "Don't you want to get rid of the ghost?" he demanded. Peter wouldn't look up. "Sure I do," he mumbled. "Then you better listen, because you have to help." Peter threw himself down on his bed. "If he does come again, we'll be ready. What do I have to do?" he asked unwillingly. "Something you're real good at," Martin said. He was still annoyed. "You have to cry." And then he explained the plan he thought of sitting out there in the fog.